Life as You Own It with Mark McDougall and Craig Miller.
Remember, you got questions, we've got answers. 800-492-4664. You may not take the time to educate yourself about the single largest investment and opportunity you have, that investment in the roof over your head in real estate.
We talk about your home, financing, making investments in real estate. We give you the facts, folks.
You know, it's just good old-fashioned horse sense that we like to talk about. And we also throw in some other horse stuff, too, just for fun.
Welcome to Life as You Own It. Another fantastic installment of what has become the staple of real estate, finance, mortgage lending, etc.
Etc. and etc. on top of that.
Etc. or etc.
Etc.
You're right. All right. I'm Mark McDougall. He's Craig Miller. We appreciate you joining us on what we hope is a warm and sun-filled weekend. And by warm, we mean above 10 degrees. We're broadcasting from the heart of our nation, the Midwest. Kansas City, to be exact, is the international, intergalactic headquarters for Life as You Own It. And it is darn chilly here, but we hope you are listening from someplace where you are toasty warm, whether it be a beach in Florida or whether it be next to that fire in your igloo in Alaska.
Or just your car that has a functioning heater.
That is good. So stay safe, stay warm, and we hope you enjoy the next hour because our goal is to not only educate you each and every weekend, but it's also to entertain you. And if we fail at that, one thing you can rest assured is we do not fail at entertaining each other. So I'm Mark McDougall.
We'll entertain each other.
He's
for
Craig
sure.
Miller, and we appreciate you joining us. Craig, we've got a big show. How you doing?
Doing pretty well.
All right, looks like you're going with a little facial hair.
That
just failed to shave.
I'm gonna head to the mountains. I'm gonna head to the mountains, and I just decided in the last less than 48 hours that I'm gonna not shave my. At least I don't know. I'm not gonna go for the full beard. I'm just gonna do a little goatee action there and have a little room through my face when I'm up in the mountains.
Kind of like an artist or a lumberjack.
Both. I'm an artistic lumberjack. That's
a
what
lumber
most people
artist.
think of me as.
All right. Well, folks, if you're checking us out for the first time, we like to cover everything under your roof. We focus on that largest investment, your investment in real estate, investment in the roof over your head, whether you're a renter, whether you're an owner. But there's so much opportunity that falls under that roof. Getting your best deal on homeowners insurance, making sure you're protected, making sure that you've set up a will, a trust, an estate plan, and gosh darn it, just having a financial plan is something we want you to accomplish. So a lot of information in the show today. It's all going to focus on that big investment in the roof over your head, but you will get so much more if you check us out each and every weekend. And remember, you can podcast the show, or you can go to iHeartRadio, get that show anywhere, anytime that you want, and we ask you to please, if you're driving through a city that's playing the show, because we are now on 33 markets, call your local radio station when you get back to town and say, darn it, we want to play this on air in our community because we think this is just great information that our friends and family and community needs to have.
That's right.
Did I do a good job there, Chris?
You did.
All right.
I'm happy about
it. Good. Thank you. So today's show, we've got, is it possible to move forward with a reverse mortgage? What happens to my house when I pass away? Get out of neutral and decide for yourself if a reverse mortgage is for you. Also, is it time to make your move? Not sure. What if you could sample the waters, test the waters without jumping in altogether? Stay tuned later in the idea. I've got a pretty cool idea for you. And, Craig, that's a lot of money to spend on a condo, isn't it?
It is a lot.
You have no idea what number I'm talking about, do you?
Listeners are going to have to wait and find out how much we're talking.
You got a ton of money spent on a condo, and we've got some examples of what you could have purchased instead of that condo. And we've got you covered. Even if your insurance company doesn't, we've got the Insurance Inside Scoop from our friends at Midwest Professional Insurance Services. You're going to stay tuned for that segment later in the hour. And, Craig, first-time home buyers are a nervous lot, aren't they?
They can be. They can be a little tentative.
And we think they should be, because this is the biggest investment they will make in their life. So, you're hearing the announcement right now that over the next 3 weeks, beginning next week, we're going to do a 3-part segment where we're going to help them become educated, sophisticated, prepared buyers of their very first home. And some of you, we're going to tell you shouldn't be a buyer. You should keep on renting until the time is right. Heck, there may be a handful of you that renting is going to be your lifelong objective or mission or the best path for you. So make sure, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your kids, anyone you know that's thinking about buying their first home. Beginning next week, we're going to start a 3-part installment over a 3-week period, and we're going to give you all the goods that you need to know. We'll also have some fantastic guests, some of which you may even see on TV. just a little teaser. Not going to tell you who it is, but there will be a celebritant on the show other than you, Craig.
We have to watch out just in case they get snowed in or something. They can't make it, because,
That's right.
They might fly right in. And I'll tell you what, Mark, it's going to be something that you want all our listeners out there need to make sure if their children or friends, family members, etc., are talking about homeownership, you've got to tell them about the show, the series coming up over the next few weeks, because it makes a night and day difference when you're empowered with this advice versus when you go in blind. And we see it way too often the other way. So we want you to be empowered. We want those loved ones in your life to be empowered. Tune into this.
Hey, Craig, what number should our listeners call if they've got a question? You don't know it, do you?
1-800-492-4664.
Good man, finally. Put you on the spot.
1-800-492-4664. And you need to use that number for anything. There's no stupid questions. There's a lot of bad answers out there, though. We see it all the time. If you don't call us, we can't guarantee the results you're going to get from applying any answer you get from somebody else. So if you've got a question about whether you should or shouldn't transact some type of real estate transaction, whether you should refinance, purchase, just a general question, how a mortgage situation works, or whatever the case, it doesn't matter. Use that 800 number to your advantage and let us serve you. We are happy to answer these questions.
And you know what? We encourage you. Remember, you can also email us questions at lifeasyouownit.com. That's questions at lifeasyouownit.com. Or just go to the website, lifeasyouownit.com. There's a place you can click, and you can get your questions answered. And we like to, I call it Stump the Chump. You send Craig a question that he can't answer, and
send me the question,
and the chump will be stumped. So, folks, we encourage you, use the resource. That is Life as You Own It. That's why we do the show, and we appreciate your feedback. If you've got questions, you've got suggestions, you've got ideas of subject matter you think would be important for us to cover, we love to hear from you. All right, let's kick it off, my friend.
Let's talk about interest rates. Every week, folks, we bring you the national average on interest rates. You're going to get that whether you podcast or tune in live or whatever the case. So make sure that you share that with your friends and family who kind of want to know, where can I get a reliable weekly update on the trend in interest rates? We're going to let you know kind of where they've been, where they are over the past week, or where they've been over the past week, and where maybe they're headed. And we've seen a little fluctuation in interest rates, and we've seen rates come back down some. And it's important we touch on this today. We want you to realize that may be short-lived and something you need to take advantage of, and don't expect to see it continue to drop. As I mentioned, though, weekly, we give you this national average, and it's based on a $200,000 loan amount, 20% or more equity, and somebody with excellent credit. So there are variances, obviously, in every person's scenario. These are the averages that people coast to coast are paying in interest for the particular loan terms we share with you. There are fees, there are points, and those things need to be considered as well. In fact, the fees, costs, points, junk fees, whatever, all that stuff, those closing costs are one of the primary considerations that we harp every single week about. You've got to do the break-even formula. You've got to know, is this refinance really economically sound? Yes, my payment's going down. Maybe I'm paying off some credit cards, but will I net any savings, or am I going backwards? Maybe you're purchasing a home. You've got an opportunity to buy your rate down or pay more closing costs with one lender who's offering a better rate, less closing costs with another who's offering a slightly higher rate. How will you know which one's actually the better deal? Because it doesn't always boil down to rate. Do the break-even formula. Check it out on the website, lifeasyouownit.com. All right, folks, here's the national averages. 30-year fixed over the past week, 4.28. That's versus 4.33 the week before. So a slight reduction. And what we've seen over the past couple weeks is rates have trended downward, although at the tail end of last week, they kind of seem to have bottomed out and started to pop back up slightly again. So we'll talk about that in just a minute, where I think they're going. 15-year, 3.34 versus 3.38. Again, a very slight reduction. 5-year ARM, that's 3.48 versus 3.47, so virtually flat there. FHA 30-year fixed, 4.17 versus 4.21 the week before. So what does that mean? Well, rates touched as high as 4.75, 4.875 range, right around their average, tail end of last year. And now we're back to levels that were available late October, early November of 2013. We have not seen rates at this level for several weeks. We do recommend you take action if you were holding off on refinancing. I've talked to people over the past week who said, you know, with rates going down and the stock market taking the big hit it's taken, I think rates are going to keep getting better and better, and I'm going to wait it out. Folks, I'll tell you, it just doesn't seem like that's the technical indicator that I'm getting. So my suggestion is, if you've held off for an extra quarter point or so and it's in front of your face now, jump on it.
Hey, Craig, you hear that music? That means we've got a Should You Stay or Should You Go segment. When we come back from the break, Brenda in Topeka, Kansas wants to know if there's some first-time home buyer love out there for her. Stay tuned. Life as you own it.
All right, friends, we are back. Life as you own it. As we were saying before the break, we had a little should you stay or should you go scenario pop up.
We're going to jump right into it.
We're going to jump right into it.
Let's do it. All right. Before we took the break, Brenda. She is a should you stay or should you go celebrity this weekend, and she has the following question. I am a first-time home buyer and want to know about the special first-time home buyer deals that are available. I have a good job as a teacher, but no money for a down payment right now. What program is best for me? Well, Brenda, first of all, thanks for sending in your question. And now, secondly, is Craig. That's not exactly a should you stay or should you go.
It's not.
But she still gets the music.
We picked it out of the basket because we are going to be featuring first-time homebuyer information over the future 3 weeks, and so we thought we'd bring this one to light because, first of all, stay, Brenda, stay right where you are. Don't make any moves. That's my first answer if we're going to use should you stay or should you go as a stay, go, quick answer. The long answer is you're not prepared to buy a home yet, it doesn't sound to me like, but of course it's a very limited series of questions that you sent. So having no money for down payment, number one, means you probably have no money for reserves either. Secondly, there's a common misconception, Mark, and I don't know where it came from other than when the government had the first-time homebuyer incentive that they threw out there. But for years, people have thought, oh, I'm a first-time homebuyer. I get some special deal that people who've already owned a home don't get. The reality is, it's really not like that. In fact, if you're a more experienced homeowner, maybe have more credit, more assets, whatever, you may find yourself getting the better deal. A first-time homebuyer, there have been incentives out there, bond money at certain municipalities, of government tax credits, things of that nature that have existed. As far as you getting some special treatment, not having to put money down, getting a lower rate, things like that, you're a higher risk loan, you're not a lower risk loan, so those wouldn't be obvious benefits. So what we'll do is cover some of these things in the future episodes when we do our little series. And Brenda, we'll send you a little email giving you a little bit more detail.
You got it. And remember, folks, work with a real estate professional that is in touch with what opportunities exist in your marketplace. As Craig mentioned, many municipalities will incent you to purchase homes in their city, and there's
in their municipality.
In their municipality.
We just like that word today.
We do.
I'm going to say it later.
And so there are options available. Sometimes states will have different options depending on your state for first-time home buyers, and also sometimes your local or county, your city or the county will have those too. So check it out with your professional. Okay, Craig, ready? Move on down the road?
Let's move on down the road.
Okay, we ready to...
Or ease on down the road if you're watching The Wiz.
Okay. We want to reverse.
Reverse.
Let's turn this show around. Let's get on the right track.
Let's talk about mortgage reverse.
All right, folks. So many of you may be aware. You've probably heard the term reverse mortgage. Some of you may just think, "Oh my gosh, that's terrible." It strikes fear in the heart of anyone that's. I'll say it. I will tell you, it often may strike fear in the heart of a person that believes that their home equity is going to be stripped away from them. That's a legitimate reason for fear, but we're going to give you the details so you understand whether that is a fear that you should take seriously or one that is just a bunch of poppycock.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to say it for the record right now, Mark, before we even get into this stuff. There is a proper application for the reverse mortgage product. Yep. I'm not a fan of reverse mortgages. I say this because I'll probably sound jaded as we go through some of the material, only because I believe that reverse mortgages are a solution to a problem that shouldn't exist. The very reason why we do Life as You Own It is to prevent most of you listening now who are not 62 years or older from having to take a reverse mortgage one day.
Yep.
We don't think a reverse mortgage is some ideal retirement strategy, and it was invented because it's an enhancement to what would have existed had you received the proper advice for many years before. Usually it's because of improper financial planning and lack of advice from your banker, from your mortgage guy, from your financial planner, or not having those people in place to work with you.
Yep.
That lands you in a place where reverse mortgage is a solution to, unfortunately, a problem.
You got it. You got it. So we consider it more of a solution to a problem. It is not rarely, and I got to think of the instance where it would be considered a strategy that is proactive. It is a solution that is reactive.
Right.
And I will say, you'll be the judge for yourself, but one that is a viable solution for those of you in a certain situation.
Right.
All right, so first, Craig, you want to kind of talk about what a reverse mortgage is? You want to give that information?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
So a reverse mortgage, real simply, it's a special type of home loan that lets you convert a portion of the equity in your home into cash. So you're taking equity that you have, maybe that you built up over years, maybe you originally even paid cash for a home, but whatever the case, you've got a significant amount of equity in your home, and you're going to be able to take draws against that equity as a monthly check or income, or as you see fit to cover regular living expenses or anything else you'd want to spend the money on. So unlike a traditional home equity loan or a second mortgage, you don't have to repay the reverse mortgage loan until the borrowers, you as a borrower or a borrower that we may be referring to in this, they no longer have the home as their principal residence, or if they fail to meet the obligations of the mortgage itself, which we'll get into those a little bit later, what those obligations are, or how you can default on a loan that you don't have to make a payment on, because you can still default on a reverse mortgage. So bottom line is, you can use it to purchase a primary residence, or you can use it to as an equity piece to draw from the equity in your home.
Okay.
Without making a payment.
You have to make no payments. All right. And how do you qualify, generally speaking, Craig?
Well, to be eligible, this is a government-backed loan program, so it's a HUD guarantee. It's called a HECM is the terminology that most people use. Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, HECM. It requires you to be a homeowner 62 years of age or older. You have to own your home outright or have a very low mortgage balance that can be paid off at closing with the proceeds from the reverse mortgage. You need to have the financial resources to pay the ongoing property charges. That's going to include taxes, insurance, so that's real estate taxes, homeowners insurance, and you must live in the home. You're also required to receive consumer information free or at very low cost, which is what they call HECM counseling, but you have to go through a counseling process and educational process to completely understand what it entails.
And it is an FHA or a HUD-approved third-party provider. That's the key thing you've got to understand, is that when you're on this call, so you've got a mortgage lender you may speak to initially. They ultimately will start to put together the program for you. You will select your options. You will then be required to engage a third-party, again, HUD-approved counselor that's going to make sure you understand what you're getting into. And we encourage you to understand what you're getting into. And as far as types of homes that are eligible, Craig, it's single-family residences, and are any other types available?
Yeah, you can have a 2 to 4 unit home with one unit being occupied by the borrower. So in other words, if you live in a duplex and you live on one side of it, or a fourplex and you live in one of the 4 units and they're all attached, you can also do that. There's HUD-approved condominiums and manufactured homes that meet FHA requirements that can also be eligible. Those can be a little trickier, and there's a number of little boxes that need to be checked, so you have to have all your facts straight going about that.
Hey, Craig, what happens if something happens to me? I did a reverse mortgage, and I pass away. Does my home just get taken over by the government?
Not
like
necessarily.
The IRS starts doing an office out of my home, or what? They take it?
No,
sell it at auction?
It depends on whether you're married and you have a surviving spouse that's still living in the home, but it still is left to your heirs as long as you have it properly designated. Then you would have if there's still substantial equity left in the home, or a reason why your heirs would be interested in being able to sell that home themselves and pay off the remaining mortgage balance obligation and retain the equity as their inheritance, of course they would take it over. Now, if you are in a situation where it isn't advantageous for an heir to mess with that, it can just go back to being dealt with and liquidated by the lender. So.
Right, and can they, let's say the estate, that there's not a lot of equity, and the heirs go, I just don't want to mess with it. Will someone come after them?
Not at all.
Exactly. Okay, so they weren't on, the reason is because they weren't on the obligation.
They're not obligated in any way, and they're not responsible, even if they're the executor of the will or the estate, if they're the primary key responsible party, there's absolutely no obligation whatsoever to meet any of the demands of repayment of that mortgage.
Okay, so let's get some of the details about the money. How does a borrower get their money?
Well,
what are the options?
Well, there's a couple different ways you can do it. First of all, with the first closing date, or when you actually complete the mortgage transaction at closing, you can take a large draw at that moment. So I'll just go through the list here. You're going to be eligible for one of the following payment plans. There's tenure, which is equal monthly payments as long as at least one borrower still lives and continues to occupy the primary as their principal residence. There's term, which is equal monthly payments for a fixed period of months selected, so you can set that up where you just know how long you're going to get it and how much you're going to get each month. There's a line of credit option, which is unscheduled payments or installments at times and in the amounts that you choose until the credit line is exhausted. So that's one of the more common ways we see people use reverse mortgages typically. There's modified tenure. That's a combination of the line of credit and scheduled monthly payments for as long as you remain in the home. And then we can go into the rest when we get back from break. Actually, there's a couple more, but just real quickly, it's modified term, which is again combining the fixed payments with the line of credit. And then there's a single disbursement. That's a lump sum at closing. Bam, there's all your money.
All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to tell you whether a reverse mortgage might be for you or not. Stay tuned. Life as you own it.
All right, folks, we are back. Life as you own it. You covered the reverse mortgage stuff. And guys, just do, like Mark said, get the education done. Consider all your options. And if it's the right solution for you, don't hesitate to take advantage of that opportunity. We will say, I'm just going to close this out with there are a lot of fees. There has been some enhancements. There have been some rule changes. You'll want the person you're speaking with about a reverse mortgage to educate you on those recent changes. If you've checked into it in years past, even if you've checked into it in the last 6 months, and now you're going back for seconds to get more information, there's been some changes. So you need to be aware of those. But regardless, get the facts. Take a look at your options, pay attention to all the fees associated with doing this reverse mortgage, because those are a significant setback that you start out of right out of the gate, as we talk about break-even period and stuff like that. I mean, you're making an investment out of your home equity to be able to sign up and have access to your own money.
Oh, Craig, you hear the music.
I hear it.
All right, as you folks that are regular listeners, you know the Should You Stay or Should You Go segment. It's when you have an opportunity to give us your scenario. I don't care if it's whether you're considering buying your first home and you currently rent, whether it's you've got a deal on a refinance transaction that you just don't know if it makes sense. We're going to tell you if you should stay with what you got or you should get the heck out of the Dodge.
Or the Chevy.
Or the Chevy.
Ford, or whatever brand of vehicle that you're
and take action.
Sitting in right now.
You got it. So we've got Larry in Omaha, Nebraska Road. I just sold my paid-off home for $220,000. I am 71 years old, retired and single. My son listens to your show and told me to tune in. I like the show, very educational, but not boring.
Thanks,
Tell my
Larry.
11-year-old that. My son thinks I should buy a villa in a maintenance-provided community, but I don't trust real estate values. I have a modest income. I'm leaning towards renting. The villas I have looked at run about $160,000 to $180,000, so I could pay cash and have less monthly expense than renting, but a lot less money in the bank. What do you suggest? We get some detailed. You can tell the regular listeners, because they don't just throw out a, here's my rate, here's this, here's this. They give the whole enchilada. So Craig, should Larry stay or should he go?
If stay means rent and go means buy a villa, I'm going to say go. I think that what Larry will find with the inflationary environment we're probably setting in for the next decade, I think rents are going to go up. He says he has a modest income. A reverse mortgage is something he could look into. We don't know the rest of his financial situation. We don't know what other kind of assets that he has. But I would suggest buying the villa, because I do think the expense for him will be less to live there, and potentially the resale value over time compensate for some of that expense versus renting. Now, he's 71, and there's a lot of considerations there, but I'm still a fan of owning.
All right.
Anything
And
you wanna
a part of
counter
his
on
also had a secondary question is, should he pay cash, or should he and have less money in the bank, or should he finance that bad boy?
I don't know. He said he has limited monthly income, so I don't know what his
Yep.
cash flow situation is. That's going to be very dependent on that and what other assets he has. I'm always going to lean toward telling someone to take a mortgage, keep their money liquid. He can always turn around and take the money out of the left pocket, put it in the right pocket, pay the loan off. But I think that starting out of the gate, he should go into it looking at mortgage options.
Okay.
And then he's going to have to talk to a certified mortgage planner, somebody that really cares and knows what they're doing.
The good news is if he's on a fixed income, the qualification process is going to be such that he's not going to be able to overborrow.
Right.
Depends on if that
He may have to do a combination
Yeah.
of large down payment, but you
Yeah.
might put 50% down and still have a manageable payment. If
All
it's a
right.
maintenance provided villa, he's not going to have a bunch of unforeseen external expenses. So
Well, hey, Larry, thank you for tuning in the show. Thank you for your question, and you did a good job of raising that son. Obviously, he's a squared away individual, so
That's
we
right.
appreciate both of you.
smart son.
That's right, smart son. Listening to Life as You Own It. Okay, moving on down the checklist, my friend. Okay, is it time to make your move? Not sure. What if you could sample the waters without jumping in altogether? Well, some of you, I am certain, because we've had guests from this organization on our show before. You've heard of Zillow, right, Craig? Heard of Zillow?
No, what's Zillow?
Zillow is a real estate website that is a resource for buyers, for realtors, for consumers that are considering not only renting or purchasing. It's all things real estate. Whether you're looking to rent a home, whether you're looking to buy, whether you're looking to identify what the values, the market trends, etc. Great resource to get some fantastic information and to help you in your quest to either purchase, rent, to put that roof over your head. And they have a little product that I'd like to tell you about, and actually it's free. And on Life as You Own It, we're big fans of free. Can't beat free, can you, Craig?
I'll say no, but you never know.
Okay,
Sometimes.
so actually I'm getting ready to pull up the information here. So there's for potential home sellers, you can input a make me move price in Zillow, and it can show up on the map when someone's looking around for homes for sale. It can pull up your information on your house, and if you've ever gone to Zillow or any of those, you can see there's lots of information on your house. It's public record, and you can put in that price, and someone can email you anonymously if they're interested in making you move. So it is free to put your info on there. You've just got a warrant. You've got to say that, hey, you own the property, you've got the ability to sell it, and you list it on there. So a fantastic way to get your home online. People that are using Zillow, which is a quickly growing resource for home buyers, you can get on there and see what homes are selling for. There's a Zestimate. We've talked about that. We've had the people from Zillow talk about their Zestimate, which is really, it takes the public data that's available, and it will has an algorithm that will identify what the value of your house is based upon that public information available. And we find, especially in newer subdivisions, they're increasingly accurate in newer built subdivisions. So cool little tool. We recommend if you're thinking of selling, check it out. Might be for you. You may get that offer. I know someone in St. Louis that told me they did the same thing, put their price in, boom, within a week, they had an offer. Cool. Now they're negotiating the offer. And it was a 95% of their first offer was 95% of their price that they put in.
Make me move price.
Yeah, I'm like, well, make it 100% of your make me move price.
There you go.
Then you got a deal. Okay, Craig, what else? What do you think of, you know what do you think of my little subject matter about what you can buy with a otherwise $90 million spent on a condo?
I think we're going to share it with the listeners when we get back from this next break. Stay tuned to Life as You Own It. Back in a few.
We were giving you the details, the nitty-gritty on reverse mortgages, and now it's time for us to tell you whether reverse mortgage is something that you should consider as a solution, consider as a strategy, or you should just say, to heck with it. I don't need to move in reverse. I'm going to keep on moving forward. All right, Craig.
One thing I'll point out, too, in the spirit of that, we do see situations where people think that, hey, this is what I'm going to do. They get through the process. They start signing all the paperwork. They've closed on the loan.
Right.
And then they go, wait a minute, I don't know why, but I can't sleep. I haven't slept for the last 2 nights.
Right.
I just don't think I was supposed to do this. You can back out of the transaction.
Yep.
3 business days, 3 calendar days, that as long as they're within normal business days, you have a rescission period where you can back out and say, scratch that, you recover any costs that you may have paid, and you just wash it.
You got it. So, and we would tell you,
if you get that
before
far
you get to that
point,
yeah, don't get to that point. Don't sign on the dotted line till you're comfortable. And our goal in doing the show and talking about this is to make sure you are comfortable, that you get enough education that you can go, you know what, that is the right solution for me. It's the most cost-effective one. And if you work with a certified mortgage planner that understands this product, they can tell you what your options are. They can cut through the chase quickly, and they can give you the right scoop. So you got to do that. Okay, Craig, so solution or strategy? Talk about the scenarios where it may be the solution. And I don't know if we're going to be able to come up with specifically any scenarios where it is the strategy that is proactive versus the solution that is reactive.
I don't know that we would be able to come up with any that we could think, that we'd hang our hat on ourselves personally and put our name on. I can share some that people have shared with me that they were presented as the strategy by a reverse mortgage salesperson.
Right.
But I'll tell you how that may fall flat. So we could probably give you the ideas behind what you would call potentially a strategy, but maybe where you'll fall short of achieving what your goal is with that strategy. Okay. As far as solution goes, the most common reason you would use a reverse mortgage as a solution for your particular financial needs would be this. You are retired, you are over 62 years old, you have very limited assets in which to draw from in the event of an emergency, an unforeseen expense, or just because you want to be able to live a reasonably enjoyable retirement where you take a vacation with your grandkids once a year or something like that, and you're just limited on funds. You've got a modest monthly income and a very fixed budget, but you've got a substantial asset that is your home, that has a lot of equity in it, and it is your primary asset, and it is not obviously liquid. Many people want to stay in their home. They're comfortable there. They've got Thanksgiving and Christmas every year for their family. It's just what they want to do, and they don't want to have to vacate that home in order to cash out all that equity and buy something smaller or whatever. And even when that is obviously an opportunity for some people, it still doesn't always solve the cash flow problems for living. So reverse mortgages is one that is primarily a solution for people who have limited assets but have a significant asset in their home, and they want to be able to draw out of that investment, quote unquote, that they made by buying and paying off that home on a monthly basis to supplement their living expenses. Again, as I mentioned earlier, why I'm not a fan of it is because if you listen to what we teach on Life as You Own It, and you're 25 years old, 30 years old, even 40 years old or older, and you are buying a home and you take advantage of the arbitrage opportunities and don't get fixated on paying your house off as fast as possible, but instead maximize every opportunity with each dollar that passes through your fingertips, many times your assets will accumulate at a greater rate of return than the tax-efficient mortgage rate you'd pay on borrowed money, and you would have an opportunity to have an even greater amount of net worth and assets in retirement.
But that's the proactive strategy.
Right. So with that in mind, the reason why I say that the solution for this particular person is one that this is a person that's kind of stuck. Now, there's other people in scenarios where, and I'll let you share if you have other ones, Mark, but the primary person is just that person that I got a lot of money. It's just tied up in a house, and I need some of that money.
Yeah, they're not diversified. Something is correct. We talk about diversification, and you've got real, tangible investment assets in the form of home equity, and you unfortunately don't have them sufficiently in the form of retirement funds, or maybe you've liquidated those, etc. So look at this just like that. Look at it. It's a savings. You put it away. We may debate whether it was the most effective investment, but it doesn't matter. It's too late. We are where we are. So you've got a real investment you made in savings, and you should be comfortable tapping into your savings if you need to. So make sure you understand that if you're in that position and you've saved, we'll say $150,000 because it's money that you paid in home equity and it's sitting there unused, it's an investment, that if you determine to borrow $75,000 that is paid out to you in distributions to supplement your fixed income over the 15 to 20 years, don't feel bad about it. It's your money. You earned it. You don't need to leave it for anybody else. Just make sure you understand what you're doing, and it can be the perfect solution. You're behind on your taxes. How many times? I hate to say it, folks. Sometimes it's just lack of education. There are people losing their homes because they're on a fixed income and they can't afford whatever happened in life with them. They get Social Security, and it wasn't enough because they had car repairs or something. They fell behind.
Maybe they had medical problems.
Yeah, and
there could have been a lot of things.
Yeah, whatever it is. And they
helping
now
a
have
family member out.
They have a home that's worth $60, $70, $80, $120,000. They owe zero on it. They can't afford to pay the taxes. The house subsequently goes into foreclosure, and someone's able to buy that house for 5, 10, 15, some ridiculous amount. Goes to a tax sale. Folks, that is definitely, you got to arm your friends with this information because it is the last, you can borrow from, if life happens, you're an emergency and you're in the middle of your working years, you can, if you've got no other resources, you can borrow against your 401k. It's not the number one option, but it is an option if you're up against the wall. That's the same option that you have with home equity, except it can be more strategic. You can determine that you want to enhance your lifestyle. You want to have an extra $1,000, not because you need it, but because you'd like to use it because no one else needs to use it when you're gone. So if you understand it, it can be a great tool. And those of you that are the children of people that may use a reverse mortgage, sit in with them on it. Make sure you understand what they're doing. But rest assured, there isn't. They're going through third party. They're getting the education. Your parents are capable of making this decision. And the bottom line is, there is nothing sinister or fraudulent about reverse mortgages that are inherent in the product itself. It's just strictly a lack of education at times. Life as You Own It. Stay tuned. Back with another Should You Stay or Should You Go segment in just a few.
All right, friends, we are back. Life as You Own It, final segment. You've got to stay tuned for about 4 more minutes. So don't go anywhere. Just sit tight. Mark is about to say a word here in a moment that we want you to hear him pronounce.
It'll be bleeped out, though, right?
No, we're not going to do that word.
All right. What's it worth? In a deal expected to close for more than $90 million, the government of Qatar is in contract to buy a Manhattan townhouse on East 64th Street. So $90 million, folks. Okay, according to the Wall Street Journal, here are just a few things you could buy for $90 million. 2014 Rolls-Royce Phantoms, 160 of them. Cases of Dom Perignon,
You should have been a little more
20,836.
French on
You know,
that.
I could, but Champagne, Cuvée, I don't know French. I know Qatar. Space flights with Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, 360 of them.
Wow.
Almost every
You'd
day
almost
of the
get
year,
sick
we
of
could
it.
go with Richard. If Richard Branson would go with me, you know what? I'd take the 90 million from Qatar, and I would do the 360 trips with Richard Branson.
I'm glad you studied Arabic.
3,750 trips across the Atlantic on Queen Mary 2 in a Queen's Grill Grand Duplex Suite. What does one of those look like, Craig?
3,750 of those?
Yeah. What does one of those look like? Is it nice?
No idea.
Oh,
No
whatever. I know you're replaying right now. Kind of whenever you duplicated the scene from Titanic.
Yeah.
You're on the front.
Except the song
and-
Dreamweaver is playing in the background. I don't know what that's about.
All right, and here's a good one too. 398 years at Harvard, including room and board.
Wow.
Which, you know what? That's
Not at current inflation rates of college expense,
that is
folks. I'm
just
sorry.
that's
being cut
just
in half.
about as many years as it would take for me to graduate from Harvard.
Exactly.
It's close. I may the over under is 400, so I might hit it. Okay.
What's interesting is that they didn't take into account the increase in college expense annually, year over year, with that pace that we're on now.
Okay, you're
It'd be about
splitting
212
hairs
years
now.
212
You
years.
think so?
The
Okay.
average lifespan of myself. Okay,
There you go.
folks, I got some advice for you before we part. I just want to say to those of you who want to be educated, empowered in the mortgage process, and apply those facts and all that good information to saving the most money possible, don't do what we see people doing all the time and looking to shave that extra eighth of a point off or save a couple $100 on closing costs by getting on the internet and shopping around for a mortgage, hoping that some low-cost price leader out there is going to come swinging and save the day for you. These situations usually wind up being heartbreakers. What we see a lot is people are hunting around for that little extra bit they can save, like they're bargain shopping or something. And you know what? Usually get a bargain shopping experience. I get calls from people every single week that say, I went with this company out of California or this place or that place I'd never heard of before, but I found them on the internet. They were quoting me an eighth of a point or even a quarter point lower than the guy that I had trusted and knew locally. And then sure enough, my loan didn't close on time. I had to pay a fine for not closing on time on the purchase. It was a big mess. Our movers had to reschedule, da-da-da-da-da. There's a ton of reasons why you wouldn't want to go that route, folks. You usually get what you pay for, and if it's just about the rate alone, don't treat your mortgage as such a simple commodity, because a lot of times the service you get and the advice is a big, crucial part of this whole transaction. So just be warned.
All right.
You have anything else?
Okay, before we break, we promised you a little bit of information from our friends at Midwest Professional Insurance Services. Okay, insurance is by and large a mystery to a lot of people. It's not that they don't understand what their policies typically cover, but it's a lot of the little things can slip through the cracks. For instance, did you know if your car were stolen, the personal items in your vehicle are not covered by your auto policy? Say someone steals your car and inside you have a GPS 42-inch TV. You know, I always carry one of those around. And a $10,000 watch. I know you've got one of those, Craig. No. Mickey Mouse exclusive. Even with full coverage, it likely won't pay the replacement cost of everything stolen. So, folks, make sure that your insurance carrier not only helps you understand what's covered and what's not, but hopefully they make sure they do it in a fashion that saves you money, gets you the right coverage at the right price. That's why we recommend Midwest Professional Insurance Services. And with that endorsement,
make sure they know that you usually drive around with expensive watches just sitting in the cup holder and 42-inch TVs in your vehicle. Now, that's a common practice for you. And your grandmother's diamond collection.
That's right. And we've got more information that you can find on our website, lifeasyouownit.com. 8 more things I bet you didn't know about insurance, what it covers, what it doesn't. This has been another installment of Life as You Own It. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Stay warm, stay safe, and remember to
stay classy.